Even though EB02's upcoming set is a short format for us here out in the West, there are some really cool cards, if you didn't see from my set review video, that upgrade plenty of decks to become more viable within the meta, so you're not just playing the best decks like Rob Lucci, Blackbeard, Shanks, the same exact list. You want to play something more fun, exciting. But first, a word from our sponsor. If you're like me and every single morning you need a hot cup of joe, or I don't know, maybe you just are normal and like coffee, look no further than Funky Rooster Coffee. Just pure fans of coffee. They actually also play the One Piece trading card game. I actually matched up against their owner in one of the tournaments that we played in. You can get a couple different types of coffee on there. Personally, I'm a fan of the Brazilian single origin medium roast, and maybe personally you don't like regular coffee, you're a decaf person, they've got that option too. You can also subscribe to their monthly coffee fix. Every single month you'll get a fresh bag sent to your door of their coffee. Plus, you can save 10% while savoring the rich flavors and unique profiles of their expertly roasted coffee. Personally, I'm kind of a big fan. I was drinking coffee before this, but now with this, I drink this every day. I genuinely like it, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, like I'm into it. And right now on your order, you can actually save 5% off if you use my code Atrocious. The link is in the description below. Definitely go check them out. You can also get some fun stuff like their mug. Use that code, check out their site, and let me know down in the comments how you feel. The first deck we're going to be talking about is Tony Chopper, right? This Animal Drum Kingdom Straw Hat crew does gain more viability as time goes on and we get to 11, but if you want to get a head start on this guy, he does get a couple great pieces in this format in the Chopper Man, right? Being able to play out another one of those 3-cost or lower characters, which are stuff like the Super Spot Spill, Super Anemone, the Hiking Bear, this Chopper with a great on-play effect, this Chopper, or this Chopper. Or this Chopper. There's a lot of great options to be able to swarm the board as you love doing, and there's so many good choppers in this game, especially 3-cost choppers that really bring some viability onto this leader effect. You've also got a great search option in the Nami, right? The Nami is incredible because you get to find not only all the Tony choppers because they're all Straw Hat Crew typing, but also important cards like the Sanji right here, some different defensive stuff like Guard Point and Shut Up and Come With Us. Some removal type things, right? If you fight like an 8-cost kid deck, the 8-cost kid deck is really nice to be able to handle decks like this, so Mole Gun works. And then a personal tech choice of mine, the Gum Gum Giant Pistol. I wanted to include one of these in this deck. It is searchable off of the Nami, which is really nice. Oh, also this Nami as well. Having 2 searches in the deck goes really nicely. But with a lot of your Tony Choppers in a sense of being in the 4,000 to 6,000 power range, you might need a little bit more to be able to go for games. So it's really nice if you're in a situation where like you've got this guy on the field who's constantly restanding, right? Does not get KO'd, especially if you're not facing like a black deck, and make him for 3 Dawn a 10,000 power swing. The Tony Chopper deck is really fun and also relatively a cheap deck to build overall. And if you've got all these pieces, well, actually, no, it's not necessarily super cheap because of this guy right here. But if you have all the pieces and you just need EB02 stuff, you don't need too much. You just need 7 cards in total. And honestly, you can get away with not having this. So you really only need 6. Now, Enel, even though it got the chopping block with the Rygo ban, might still have some viability, especially in EB02, with the new additions of 5 costs or more within the deck of the 10 cost Enel, which is the premier card for this deck, right? Being able on a 10 Dawn turn to slam this guy down, get 12,000 power Russian, also gain a life, works really well alongside your leader effect, but also getting a really good blocker, in my opinion, in the Sanji, right? Sanji being a great card for a deck that always hovers 2 life or less, it seems, to be able to cycle your hand, try to find some key pieces that you need while not losing out on any cards in your game plan, right? It's a net 0 kind of card. I will say that this deck is a little bit nabbed from an OP11 list that I saw and really enjoyed. The only difference really is the introduction of Thunderbolt, right? We know that in OP11 Zeus is coming, which is a great card for this deck. And the combination of Thunderbolt and Nami are kind of like good secondary options if you're in the waiting room to get that card. You've also got many of the typical Enel things in the you're the one that should disappear, right? A great final trigger for the deck. A couple copies of the Luffy to be able to draw cards as well as KO a character on field. Frankie, incredible 2K. Shirahoshi, a really great blocker. Beige, which, I mean, you're a yellow deck, you might as well play Beige. Kikunojo or Okiku being in this deck is something that I personally really enjoy, right? Especially with the introduction of green-purple Luffy. There's another 4-life leader being entered into the format that almost automatically turns on Okiku's effect, right? Of that on KO effect. It's a sticky body on the field, specifically in that matchup, and especially since green-purple Luffy is going to constantly be a 6,000 power leader, you don't have to invest any Dawn for this Okiku or Kikunojo to swing. Enel's definitely one of the sleepers of the format in my opinion, and one of those skill check decks that if you don't know how to play against it, they're going to run you over. So maybe be wary about that if you had some Enel friends playing in OP05 when this released. Now, I won't spend too much time talking about green-purple Luffy, but obviously the deck that gets introduced in this set utilizes the most cards from EB02. If you want a breakdown of a lot of green-purple Luffy lists, I've got a video on my channel talking about, I think it's like 10 different green-purple Luffy lists that we saw at the beginning of this format. And this deck definitely has a couple different tech options, but I wanted to showcase some of the cards that I really enjoy in these lists, including Electrical Luna. Fans of the channel may know that I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck. This card just wins games, right? Being able to not only play 1 and buy a turn, but 2 in a row give you so much value. Zoro Juro is a card that, as we've progressed later in the formats, in the Eastern meta, more and more people have been including Zoro Juro in their lists, and I've really enjoyed it, right? As a 4-life leader, there's definitely a possibility that you can quickly go down to 3 life in the early turn, so Zoro Juro is going to be able to help you ramp and make your leader effect not so punishing. Brook is kind of the final card that I'll talk about with this leader. I've seen this more and more as of late, and I really like this card, right? Being able to minus 2,000 power on 2 different characters is so good in so many situations, as well as with that opportunity of returning 1 or more Dawn into your deck, can also activate off of Sanji and Pudding to bring some Dawn back. It's a really interesting card, especially if you're battling some swarm decks, or maybe you want to battle some different bigger bodies that maybe your 7,000 power range characters can't really go over. So it's a neat little tech option that's very searchable off of the Nami, or even the When You're at Sea You Fight Pirates event. Now, Chad and I have cooked up a list without Ice Age or Gecko for Black Smoker, and this is kind of what we've come up with, right? Based on the tendencies that we've seen. Sengoku is a really nice card, and debatably out of the black decks, it's best provided in Smoker. Being able to play a Black Navy type character with an on-play effect that can really help out your leader effect, like Kuzan in a future turn, or immediately like Hina, provide a ton of value for this deck that you really love. There's some other options in here, not necessarily EB02, that we really like, including the Uta, which has trended upwards a lot if you haven't noticed in the last couple months in the One Piece trading card game. Just a really good card in general with that activate main and can't be KO'd by leaders, so the early game is really good for removal. One-Legged Toy Soldier is a great activate main to get that -3 if you need it. Patchwork, really nice, and what a lot of people have gravitated to because of Ice Age's ban. And personally, I like a one of Kaido. I feel like it works out in a lot of matchups, and plus, a Patchwork and Kaido 10 Dawn turn gets rid of anything 10 cost or lower in the format. I would definitely work on this list a little bit more. I know Smoker in the recent Chinos Cup, or one of the recent ones, had, I think it was the second most populous leader in the tournament out of like 33 players, I think it was, but none of them made top 4. So you got to really try this. And definitely, as Smash is saying in the chat, you could also maybe try try out this Hina as well. This Hina is a nice counter to other black decks, right? And being able to give 1 Dawn to your leader could be valuable in a sense. I definitely like this card in a couple situations, especially when you have this 7-cost Sengoku, right, being another 4-cost. Now, Iceberg is generally my cope deck, right? This is the deck that got a little bit of EB02, and I'm like, put it in, it's a viable deck now. Being able to look at the top 7 cards in this deck for a stage that is so good in Galila Company is huge for this archetype, right, and its consistency. Especially since this is a 3-cost stage, right, and not a 1-cost stage that we typically see a lot of different people play with in other decks, right? I'm talking like Blackbeard, I'm talking like Green Purple Luffy. Being able to cheat that out and play it for free is huge in a lot of situations. And with a leader effect that can spam out incredible characters such as Khalifa, right? Or maybe even this Khalifa if you need to filter your hand a bit. Tilestone, Pauly, Rob Lucci. There's great options in here as well as other general good cards in purple like Reiju, right? Being able to draw cards, as well as Eustace Captain Kidd, which can recur your Dawn that you put away through like leader effect or something. This deck probably needs a little bit more cooking than Black Smoker does, but it's one of my favorite decks to play, one of my all-time favorite leaders within the game, and we've played it a little bit on stream, especially when EB02 first came out in the East and got programmed into the OPTCG simulator, and you could definitely win some games with this deck. So Kgara. Kgara is one of the decks that gained a lot of boosts and one of the only decks that really utilize the new 2-cost event searches. Especially since your main engine on this deck is not part of your archetype in terms of the Sky Island package, Mont Black Norland is so nice to be able to find off of the Us event, right? Just for 2 Dawn, you can try to make sure that you find this guy that is not searchable otherwise, especially when you cycle through your deck with stuff like Upper Yard, the Wiper, also this Wiper, Ohm Holly combo. This deck does have some legs to it and it's a fan favorite for many. You also can choose whether or not you want to put the Enel in. I know that the Enel in this deck is not as good as the Enel in the Enel deck. I don't know if that made sense. But this being a searchable boss monster that can help you regain life might just be a piece worth putting into this deck. You've got some other options in here in terms of the Sky Island Shandora Warriors in the Bram and Rocky, right? The Rocky being a constant blocker on the field, a nice chum blocker of the deck, and then Bram is just really, really good because just like Wiper, it can go ahead and bottom deck any of the 1-cost stages that are running around in the format. Think Full of Lead, right, in Blackbeard. Think Germa Kingdom in Reiju. The Going Merry in Green Purple Luffy. I definitely think this card is one to watch out for and one to consider when you're talking about building a Kgara deck, especially because it's so searchable and you get to rest one of your opponent's 4 costs. So any chum blocker in format, you can go ahead and do that. And at worst case scenario, it's either a 1K counter or it can help you bottom deck your own Upper Yard to be able to find it again, play it out on the field, and do another search. Kgara is super interesting and one that I really want to see more of and more people put in time to once EB02 fully comes out, and hope to see it in these store treasure cups have a little bit of success. Now, Purple Black Luffy is on this list as the deck that debatably plays the most secret rares out of any deck in the format in the Monkey D. Luffy, right, in the EB02 secret rare, and also the OP05 Gain Another Turn secret rare. Also playing the Mr. Tubon Clay, although I maybe don't recommend spending $50+ per copy at this point, you don't really have a replacement for Mr. Tubon Clay until OP11 comes out with that Gear 2 event, so I think it's kind of a mainstay in this deck for now. The whole idea of being able to reutilize Dawn and re-ramp Dawn for your different effects like Zoro, the Luffy secret rare, even this one too, the Black Maria, the Sanji, and Frankie really help you get a lot of extra effects in this game and be able to reutilize Dawn. I know everybody's always looking at getting back into Red Green Law, right? And especially with another searcher to help cycle your deck. With the addition of Starter Deck 21 as of late, Nami actually provides a good amount of value for your deck to be able to get into your Shambles game plan. Especially as we approach formats where aggressive decks thrive more, Trafalgar Law has an opportunity to get a little bit more in the limelight once again. Definitely not as much as it did in its heyday in the OPO1 to OPO4 days, but certainly a little bit closer. You've got plenty of great options in this deck and great cards like the Cavendish here. The Rush Zoro always been good, as well as great options like Trafalgar Law in here, both the Starter Deck one and the OPO1, and even maybe a couple copies of the OP10 Sanji. It's definitely a cool list that might need a little bit of tweaking here or there. Like, I don't know if these, well, all of these are technically searchable in some sense or another, right? You've got 2 playsets of the Nami to find this guy, you've got Jewelry Bonnie to find this Bonnie, and these guys can also be found off of the Namis. It's an interesting deck, especially if you already had your playset of Cavendishes, which, if you didn't listen to my market watch many moons ago, you would already have these. But I know, especially at the beginning of formats, there's always a couple people that try Red Green Law once again, and you know what? Now's the time to get back into it. Now, even though Kai leaked out the Rosinante sauce here in the format, we've tried it out on the channel, and you definitely need this card that came out in EB02, this Don Quixote Rosinante 2 cost. Being able to cheat out so many good 2 costs in this deck, including the other green Rosinante, Sugar, a searcher option like Cammy, Hammond, and most importantly, Vanderdecken, gives you a lot of opportunity within the deck to be able to really frustrate your opponent in their game plan. Okay, they up the cost with the Going Merry stage event and Green Purple Luffy to make their Sanji pudding a 7 cost. Does not matter. You'll go ahead, play Vanderdecken. They play literally anything on the field, well, rest it with Sugar.
And then you blow up.
There's so many interesting cards within this deck, and this deck is so fun to watch. Highly encourage you to watch this video if you haven't already. I feel like I've said that like 30 times, but it's one of my favorites. This is also a relatively cheap deck, especially if you opened up a little bit of OPO5 PRB and have a couple copies of the Rosinante. Now, Vega Punk is honestly the secret sauce, as some people are alluding to. I'm talking about all you in Europe and some of my locals, you know who you are. Vega Punk's biggest addition was this 5-cost blocker SR. Right? Being able to do some searching and play out one of your scientist characters, which include another searcher, Edison, which is a great on-play filter, Shaka, an insane blocker, one of the better cards of this deck, I feel like, Pythagoras, potentially summoning another card. This provides a lot of opportunities, as well as getting a really nice blocker on the field that gives you a lot of flex. Oh, I almost forgot Atlas. You can play this Atlas, and remember, read the card. Even though it doesn't have Raigo anymore, it still has great removal opportunities in the Luffy and Nami, as well as aggressive tempos in the Ace. Especially since EB02 Vega Punk has a trigger on it, I really like Dareshi still in this deck because of the high volume of triggers that you can really find. The only thing that you really can't find in this is the Yamato and also the Ace, which honestly, with the draw of the Luffy, Nami, and Edison, you might be able to find one of these 2 anyways. A lot of times I see in different game plans or deck lists with Vega Punk, you really only need one of these. There's not really a lot of times where you're like, oh my gosh, I need 2 aces within the game, or like I need both of my Yamatos. Vega Punk is definitely in a very interesting position, right? Nami being able to KO Sanji puddings that maybe don't have the stage boosted on them. Luffy being able to remove stuff like Zoro Juro, the Robin, Frankie, Zoro, the other Zoro Juro, both of them, both the starter deck and the OPO5 one, as well as many of the other typical targets that you think of prior to EB02's release. This is honestly a pretty cheap deck, I think, overall. I really don't think any of this stuff is super expensive. Maybe like the Ace is the most expensive just because it's limited to the starter deck. But if you're looking for a funky, wacky, cheap deck to play, Vega Punk's got you covered for sure. Now, this list of Zoro that I saw is wacky, and there's some excellent stuff within this. This is more focused on a Drum Kingdom kind of package with the Kurumarimo and Chess. I don't know if I said this guy's name right. Being able to have good synergies alongside each other and easily searchable in the Dr. Kureha give a nice balance to this zoo archetype that gets more and more popular as we get closer and closer to OP11. Especially with this Tony Chopper, right? Being able to play this guy down on curve, find this EB02 Tony Chopper to play him down, and then give a Straw Hat leader Dawn to power up your leader effect can give you a lot of great opportunities within this deck for some flexibility, right? You can play out all of your Dawn and then go in with this Chopper on that on play to be able to use your leader effect and swing high with these characters. Be super annoying. I haven't seen too many people really walk around with this version, right? As Gallifrey is saying, by the way, hello Gallifrey. This is definitely the spice of the Zoro deck, right? You do get this EB02 Chopper, which is really cool, but the spice is laid out in here, these OP08 characters. I really feel like it's definitely worth trying. And finally, the last one I've got on this list is Zoro Sanji. I know Zoro Sanji recently made some noise in OP11, winning a flagship, and this list is somewhat inspired by that. But I think there's some really great things about the deck list that you can take right now in EB02 and have a lot of fun with. The Nami is a huge boost in the deck, right? Being a green Straw Hat Crew Searcher and a Straw Hat Engine can find you so many different pieces. Can find you this Zoro, Usopp, Brook, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, this Usopp, the Brook, Zoro, and also Gum Gum Giant Pistol. Especially with the Dracula Mihawk, right, being able to play a slash character, you have plenty of different slash opportunities within the deck to be able to go Dracula Mihawk on play, Brook on play, the Usopp, or the Brook, or the Zoro. Which, by the way, that combo, Mihawk, Brook, and Zoro, is already 3 characters on the field to be able to have this Zoro gain 2,000 power in the next turn when it attacks. With the Usopp that you also gain in EB02, you've got some opportunities to be able to play out another vanilla character like another Usopp or the Zoro. Great opportunities in the film package. I think these are probably the best options of the 6 that you can choose because there's definitely other like 3-5 vanillas or 4-6 vanillas that you can have, but they run alongside Brook in a sense and the Monkey D. Luffy, so I think they're probably the best options. And also Vivi, right? Vivi, I talked about in my set review, was very underwhelming in terms of its popularity index since it came out, and Zoro and Sanji are the best opportunity, or one of the best opportunities, especially right now in EB02, that can utilize this card, right? Especially when you're playing multiple characters from hand from either the Dracula Mihawk or Brook, your hand can get kind of small and need to be refilled. So Vivi kind of fits that bill, especially because Dracula Mihawk, fun fact, a lot of you may not know this, can actually play out Vivi with its effect, right? Vivi being a slash type character. Being able on the Dracula Mihawk and Vivi combo to be able to refill your hand and net 0 at the 3 dawn turn of the game can provide a lot of strengths with being able to continuously spit out these aggressive characters later in the game and survive a little bit longer than you would before EB02's release. I really hope some people continue messing around with this Zoro Sanji. I think it's a really neat deck, and outside of the fact that you are going to have to buy some Kayas and a couple cards from the new set, if you already have starter deck 12 in the Dracula Mihawk, it's probably not overly expensive to play. So that's all the list that I've got that get enhanced from EB02. I know that there's more out there, and let me know in the comments below or in the chat right now, if you're in chat watching this live, which decks you're most excited for in the upcoming EB02 meta. We'll have plenty of EB02 content in the future, so thank you again for watching in this video, and hope to see you in the next one.